The sun was merciless in its intensity that afternoon, casting steamy waves of heat over the bustling marketplace. Traders called out to customers, their voices competing with the bleating of goats and the rhythmic clanging of the blacksmith at work. Amid the vibrant chaos stood Zainab, a petite young woman no older than 20 years. Her dark eyes shadowed with exhaustion. She clutched a tray of akara, beans cake, on her head, weaving through the crowd as she tried to sell her products. Akara, hot akara, only 50 naira, she called out, her voice hoarse from hours of shouting. Her body trembled under the weight of the tray and the burden of secret she carried in her heart. For weeks, Zainab had battled nausea, fatigue, and a gnawing fear she couldn't ignore. As she approached a group of potential customers, her vision blurred and the world around her spun, the cacophony of the market fading into a distant hum. Suddenly, her legs gave way. The tray of akara toppled from her head, scattering the golden brown cakes onto the dusty ground. Gasps erupted from the crowd as Zainab crumpled to the earth, her body lifeless and still. "Somebody help her! Somebody help her!" a woman cried out, rushing to her side. A man rushed there and poured water on her, sprinkled water on a cloth and dabbed Zainab's forehead. But she did not stir, she did not stand. The onlookers whispered among themselves, their words a mixture of concern and judgment. Is she sick? Maybe she hasn't eaten, or perhaps she is carrying... Their suspicion hung heavy in the air, unspoken but understood. In a community where appearance mattered more than the truth, Zainab's collapse was more than a spectacle. It was a scandal waiting to unfold. The air inside the village clinic was stifling. A mix of antiseptic and a faint aroma of herbs hung in the air. Zainab sat on a worn wooden bench, her hands tightly clasped in her lap. "Your results are ready, madam," the nurse announced, stepping out of the back room. She was a plump woman with a kind eyes, but her expression was serious as she handed the paper to Zainab. Zainab's hands trembled as she unfolded the piece of paper. She didn't need to read the words. The nurse's silence said everything. Her chest tightened as the weight of her situation crashed over her. "How far along am I, nurse?" she managed to whisper. "You are 3 months gone," the nurse replied softly. "You should consider telling the father. You are pregnant." Zainab felt a wave of panic and shame. She thought of Abdul, the young man who has promised her the world and beyond, and disappeared into thin air when she needed him most. This wasn't supposed to happen, Zainab muttered, tears spilling down her cheeks. How will I tell my parents? What would the village say? The nurse placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Zainab, your life is not over. You are stronger than you think. The child may be a blessing in ways you can't imagine. But Zainab wasn't ready to believe that. She left the clinic with the result clutched tightly in her hands, feeling as though the wall of the world are closing in on her. Zainab's heart pounded as she approached the mango tree where Abdul often lounged with his friends. The group laughed and chatted, oblivious to her approach. Abdul, she called out, her voice sharp and filled with urgency. I want to see you, please. Abdul turned lazily towards her, his smile fading when he saw the storm in her eyes. His friends exchanged knowing glances and quickly excused themselves, leaving the two alone. "Zainab, what's the matter?" he asked, finging innocence. "You know what the matter is," she snapped, thrusting the crumpled test result at him. "I'm pregnant, Abdul, and you are the father." Abdul's eyes widened, but only for a moment. He leaned back against the tree trunk, crossing his arms. "Pregnant?" he said slowly. "Are you sure it's mine?" The slap echoed through the air before he could finish the sentence. Zainab's hand stung, but her anger burned brighter. "How dare you?" she shouted. "You promised me love, Abdul. You said you would marry me, and now you are trying to deny your responsibility?" Abdul's face darkened. "I didn't force you to do anything, Zainab. You are on your own with this. Please excuse me." Zainab felt as though the ground beneath her should open and swallow her up. She felt her world crumbling. Abdul turned back and walked away, leaving her standing alone, tears streaming down her face. She realized then that she couldn't rely on him or anyone else. She would have to face this challenge alone and do it on her own. By the time Zainab returned home, the news of her pregnancy had spread like wildfire through the village. Everywhere she went, she felt the weight of their stares, heard the sting of their whispers. "She's no better than those girls in the city," one woman muttered as Zainab passed. "Her poor parents," another added. "How will they ever live this down?" Zainab held her head high, but deep inside she felt as though she was drowning. The judgment was suffocating, and she couldn't escape it. Not in the market, not in the church, not in the mosque, not in the village square, not even in her own home. Her parents were devastated. Her father refused to speak to her, while her mother wept quietly in the evening. "What have you done to this family, Zainab?" her mother asked one night, her voice breaking. "We raised you better than this." "I'm sorry, Mama," Zainab whispered, tears spilling onto her cheek. "I didn't mean for this to happen." But her apologies did little to ease the shame that hung over their household like a dark cloud. Zainab knew she had to find a way to prove her worth, not just to the village, but to herself. One evening, unable to bear the silence of her parents' home, Zainab made her way to her grandmother's hut on the edge of the village. Her grandmother, Mama Nana, was a small, weary woman with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of generations. She welcomed Zainab with open arms, offering her a seat on the wooden mat outside the hut. "Tell me what troubles your heart, my child," Mama Nana asked, her voice soft but strong. Zainab poured out her story, the words tumbling from her lips like a flood. She spoke of Abdul's betrayal, the community's judgment, and her own fear about the future. When she finished, her grandma was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun was setting in a blaze of gold and orange. "Zainab," she said finally, "life is not about the mistakes we make, but how we rise from them. This child growing inside of you is not a curse. It is a seed of fortune. You may not see it now, but one day this child will bring you joy, pride, blessing you cannot imagine." Zainab felt a flicker of hope stir in her heart. Mama Nana's words were like a balm soothing the wounds that shame and fear had inflicted on her. "But how will I face the village? How will I raise this child alone?" Zainab asked. "One step at a time, my child," Mama Nana replied. "And remember, You are never truly alone. You have me, and you have the strength of our ancestors guiding you. That night, as Zainab lay on the mat in her grandmother's hut, she felt a glimmer of something she hadn't felt in weeks: courage. At dawn, Zainab left the only home she had ever known. With her grandmother's blessing and a small bundle of belongings, she set out on a dusty road leading to the nearby town of Ikere. The journey was long and grueling, the sun beating down mercilessly, and the weight of her bundle seemed to grow heavier with each step, but Zainab's determination kept her going. As she walked, she thought of the child growing inside her. She had no idea what awaited her in Ikere, but she was determined to find a way to provide for her baby. The road stretched on, flanked by fields of cassava and maize. Occasionally, a cat or a group of travelers passed by, offering curious glances but little more. Zainab's feet ached and her throat was dry, but she pressed on. By the time she reached Ikere, the sun was beginning to set. The town was alive with activities: traders hawking their goods, children playing in the street, and the smell of roasted plantain wafting through the air. Zainab felt a mix of hope and fear. This was a new beginning, but it was also a leap into the unknown. In Ikere, Zainab quickly realized that survival would not be easy. With no family or friends to rely on, she had to find work wherever she could. She began washing clothes by the stream for wealthy families. The work was back-breaking. Her hands were often raw and blistered, but it brought in a few coins to buy food. During the evenings, she helped a roadside food vendor pounding yam and stirring pot of egusi soup until her arms ached. The vendor was kind enough to give her leftover food in addition to her meager pay. The other women often gossiped about Zainab, whispering about her swollen belly and speculating about the father of her child. But Zainab refused to let their words affect her. She focused on the work, keeping her head high and her heart strong. Each night, as she lay on the tin mat in the small room she rented, she whispered words of encouragement to her unborn child. "We will make it," she said softly. "No matter what, we will make it." The day Zainab went into labor, the skies opened up with a torrential downpour. The street of Ikere was flooded and the sound of thunder echoed through the town. Zainab's screams filled the tiny room she had rented. A local midwife, a kindly woman named Auntie Bola, worked tirelessly to help her through the labor. After hours of pain and struggle, a piercing cry broke through the storm. Zainab's baby, a boy, was born. As Auntie Bola placed the tiny bundle in her arms, Zainab's heart swelled with emotion. The baby's skin was so soft and warm, and his tiny fingers curled around hers. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "You are my light, my hope, my everything." For the first time in months, Zainab felt a sense of purpose. She had brought life into the world, and she was determined to give her son the best life possible, no matter the challenges ahead. With her son strapped securely in her back, Zainab returned to the market. But this time, she wasn't selling for others. Using the last of her savings, she bought beans, palm oil, and other ingredients to make akara and pap. She set up a small table at the edge of the market, her baby cooing softly as she walked. The first day was slow. Most people walked past without stopping, but Zainab greeted everyone with a warm smile and a polite word. By the second week, word had spread about the young woman with the delicious akara. Customers began lining up at her table, drawn by the aroma at the freshly fried beans cake and the sweet, creamy pap. Zainab's earning grew steadily and she was able to afford better ingredients and a larger table. She worked tirelessly, often staying up late at night to prepare for the next day, but the sight of her baby sleeping peacefully gave her the strength to keep going on. For the first time, Zainab felt a glimmer of hope. She was building a life not just for herself, but for her son. Life in Ikere was not without challenges. As a single mother, Zainab faced judgment and obstacles in every turn. There were days when the baby fell ill and Zainab had to spend her hard-earned money on medicine instead of food. There were nights when she cried silently, overwhelmed by the exhaustion and the weight of her responsibilities. But Zainab refused to give up. She began saving small amounts of money each week, determined to provide her son with good education. When her son turned 5, Zainab enrolled him in a small school on the outskirts of the town. The villagers watched in amazement as she walked into class, her head held high, despite their whispers. "She is stronger than I thought," one woman said. "She is an example for all of us," another added. Zainab's resilience began to earn her the respect of the community. Her journey was far from over, but she was determined to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Years later, Zainab's small business flourished. Her akara and pap became the talk of Ikere, drawing customers not just from the village alone, but from nearby villages as well. With her earnings, Zainab expanded her store. She added jollof rice and fried plantain to her menu, hiring 2 young women to help her with the growing demands. Every day, the market buzzed with the sound of customers calling her name, their laughter mingling with the sizzle of oils in her frying pan. Her son Musa, now a lively boy of 8, often played nearby, greeting customers with a shy smile. Zainab's hard work was finally paying off. She had moved out of the tiny rented room into a modest house, and she no longer worried about how to provide for her son. But her journey wasn't without challenges. Competitors tried to spread rumors about her food, and some villagers still whisper about her past. Yet, Zainab faced it all with quiet dignity, focusing on the future she was building for her son. She reminded herself of her grandmother's word: "Life is not about the mistakes we make, but how we rise from them." And Zainab was rising higher than anyone have ever expected. One sunny afternoon, a sleek black car pulled up near Zainab's store. A woman wearing a vibrant Ankara gown stepped out of the car. She exuded with confidence, her every movement drawing attention. The woman approached Zainab's store, scanning the menu with curiosity. "I have heard so much about your food," she said, her voice warm and elegant. The woman ordered a plate of jollof rice and plantain, along with a side of akara. As she took her first bite, her eyes lit up. "This is incredible," she exclaimed. Zainab's heart swelled with pride. The woman introduced herself as Madam Tola, a renowned caterer in the region. "You have a gift," she told Zainab. "Have you ever considered catering for large events, like weddings, parties?" Zainab shook her head. "I wouldn't even know where to begin." "Let me help you," Madam Tola said, handing her a business card. "With food like this, you could go far." Zainab hesitated, unsure if she could take such a big step, but the encouragement from Madam Tola gave her the courage to dream bigger. With Madam Tola's guidance, Zainab took on her first catering job, a grand wedding in the heart of Ikere. The weeks leading up to the event were a whirlwind of preparation. Zainab and her team worked tirelessly, chopping vegetables, seasoning meat, and perfecting recipes. On the day of the wedding, Zainab stood under a colorful canopy watching guests line up for her food. The aroma of her jollof rice, pepper chicken, and fried plantain filled the air, mingling with the laughter and music of the celebration. The guests couldn't get enough of her food, and many came back for second round, and even third. The bride's mother pulled Zainab aside to thank her personally. "You've made this day even more special," she said, her eyes glistening with gratitude. As Zainab looked around at the happy faces, she felt a surge of pride. She had come a long way from the scared, pregnant girl who had left her village. Her journey was far from over, but she knew she was on the right path. Success had changed Zainab's life, but it hadn't changed her heart. She remembered all too well the struggles she had faced as a young mother, and she was determined to help others in need. One afternoon, as she packed up her store for the day, she noticed a young woman sitting nearby, cradling a baby. The woman looked tired and hungry, her clothes tattered. Zainab approached her with a warm smile. "Are you hungry?" she asked. The woman nodded hesitantly. Zainab handed her a bag filled with food and a small envelope of money. "Take this," she said, "and if you ever need work, come see me. There's always room for another helping hand." The woman's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the gift. "Thank you, ma," she whispered. Zainab's son watched the exchange with wide eyes. "Mama," he said later, "why did you give her our money?" he asked. "Because we are blessed," Zainab replied her son, placing a hand on his shoulder, "and it is our duty to share with those in need." Zainab's effort did not go unnoticed. The community, once so quick to judge her, now celebrated her as a symbol of resilience and generosity. At a community event, the local chief called Zainab to the stage. "This woman has shown us the power of perseverance," he said. "She turned her struggles into strength and became an inspiration to us all." As Zainab accepted the plaque, her son stood by her side, his small hand clutching hers. The applause was thunderous, and Zainab felt tears of joy streaming down her face. She looked out at the crowd and saw the faces of those who had once whispered about her. Now they clapped and cheered, their respect evident. In that moment, Zainab realized that her journey had come full circle. What had begun as an unwanted pregnancy had transformed into a story of triumph, love, and unshakable faith. And as she held the award high, she silently thanked the baby boy who had given her the strength to rise above it all. With her reputation growing, Zainab began to think beyond Ikere. She envisioned a network of food stores across the region, run by women like herself, women who needed a second chance. One evening, Zainab gathered a group of young women in her home. Most of them were single mothers or widows, struggling to make ends meet. Zainab shared her story, her vision, and her determination to lift others as she had been lifted. "Together, we can build something incredible," she said, her eyes shining with passion. "Not just a business, but a family, a legacy." The women listened intently, their expressions shifting from doubt to hope. They saw in Zainab a leader who understood their struggles and believed in their potentials. By the end of the meeting, every woman in the room had pledged to join Zainab's initiative, and so the seeds of a regional business were planted, rooted in resilience and sisterhood. Success, however, was not without its challenges. Just as Zainab's business began to expand, disaster struck. One night, a fire broke out in one of her stores, Flames consumed the wood structure, reducing it to ashes. The cause was later found out to be faulty kerosene stove. Zainab rushed to the scene, her heart sinking at the sight of the charred remains. The women who ran to the store stood nearby, tears streaming down their faces. The women who ran to the store stood nearby, tears streaming down their faces. But Zainab refused to let despair take hold of her. "We will rebuild," she said firmly. "This is just a setback, not the end." With the help of the community, Zainab raised funds to replace the store. She also invested in safer cooking equipment to prevent future accidents. The incident taught her an important lesson about resilience. It wasn't about avoiding failures, it was about rising above them stronger than before. As Zainab's business thrived, her son Musa faced challenges of his own. At school, some children teased him about his mother's past. "Your mama was nothing but a market woman," one boy sneered. The words stung Musa deeply. He came home in tears, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by sadness. Zainab held him close, her heart aching for him. "Listen to me, Musa," she said softly. "People will always find reasons to bring you down, but you must never let their words define you." She told him about her struggles and the strength it took to rise above them. "You come from a line of fighters, Musa. Hold your head high, because you are destined for greatness." Inspired by his mother's word, Musa returned to school with renewed confidence. He began excelling in his studies, determined to make his mother proud. Zainab's hard work and innovation caught the attention of national organizations. She was invited to a prestigious event in Lagos to receive the Entrepreneur of the Year award. The ceremony was held in a grand hall, with chandeliers casting a warm glow over the audience. Zainab, dressed in an elegant Ankara dress, stood out not just for her beauty, but for the humility and strength she carried. As her name was announced, the room erupted in applause. Zainab stepped onto the stage, her hands trembling slightly as she accepted the trophy. "This award is not just for me," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "It is for every woman out there who has faced hardship and refused to give up. It is for every child who dreams of a brighter future, and it is for the community that supported me when I had nothing." Her speech moved the audience to tears, and Zainab left the stage to a standing ovation. With her newfound fame and resources, Zainab turned her attention to giving back to the community that had supported her through this journey. She used a portion of her earnings to build a small school in Ikere, providing free education to children from low-income families. On the day of the ribbon cutting ceremony, the entire town gathered to celebrate. Children ran around excitedly, their laughter filling the air. Parents expressed their gratitude, some wiping away tears as they saw the opportunities their children will now have. Zainab stood at the entrance of the school, a pair of scissors in her hands. "This is just the beginning," she said, her voice filled with hope. "Together, we can build a future where every child has the chance to succeed." As she cut the ribbon, the crowd erupted in cheers. For Zainab, this was the ultimate reward, not wealth, not fame, but the knowledge that she was making a difference. As the sun set over Ikere, casting a golden glow over the school, Zainab felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. She had turned her trials into triumph, her pain into purpose, and her dreams into reality. Musa excelled in school, his determination fueled by his mother's unwavering support and sacrifices. Zainab ensured he had everything he needed, from textbooks to uniforms, even if it meant working late into the night. Education is your greatest weapon, Musa, she often reminded him. With knowledge, you can change your life and the world. Musa took her words to heart. He was at the top of his class year after year, earning scholarship and accolades. His teachers often praised his intelligence and work ethics, predicting a bright future for him. Though life wasn't always easy, Musa never let obstacles deter him. He remembered his mother's resilience and used it as an inspiration to keep going. And as he grew older, he developed a passion for engineering, marveling at the way machines work and how they could solve real-world problems. Zainab, though unfamiliar with the field, encouraged him wholeheartedly. "Chase your dreams, my son," she said. "The sky is your limit." Musa's hard work paid off when he received an acceptance letter from one of the Nigerian's top universities to study engineering. The day the letter arrived, Zainab couldn't contain her joy. She hugged her son tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You've made me so proud, Musa," she said, her voice thick with emotion. But there were challenges ahead. University fees were steep, and Zainab worried about how she would afford them. Undeterred, she expanded her catering business further, taking on more events and working longer hours. "I will do whatever it takes to see you succeed," she told Musa. And true to her word, Zainab ensured every bill was paid, never letting her son feel the weight of her sacrifices. At university, Musa thrived. He quickly became known for his innovative ideas and dedication to his studies, earning the respect of his professors and peers alike. During his final year, Musa developed a groundbreaking project, a solar-powered water pump designed to provide clean water to rural communities. He presented his invention to the panel of professors and students, explaining how it could solve water scarcity issue in underprivileged areas. The audience was captivated by his passion and ingenuity. His project earned him the University Top Engineering Award and caught the attention of the multinational firm that specialized in renewable energy solutions. Musa was offered an internship with the company, an opportunity that marked the beginning of his ascent to greatness. When he called Zainab to share the news, she could barely contain her excitement. "You are going to change the world, Musa," she said. "I always knew you would." Musa's career soared after university. The multinational firm recognized his talent and offered him a full-time position, allowing him to work on cutting-edge renewable energy projects. Within a few years, Musa became a lead engineer, traveling the world to important sustainable solutions in underserved communities. His innovations earned him international acclaim, including the prestigious Global Engineering Excellence Award. At the award ceremony in Geneva, Musa stood on stage, humbled by the applause of industry leaders from around the world. "This award is not just for me," he said, his voice steady but emotional. "It is for my mother, Zainab, who taught me that no dream is too big and no obstacle too great to overcome." The audience erupted in applause, many moved by his heartfelt tribute. Back in Nigeria, Zainab watched the ceremony on television, her heart swelling with pride. Her son had become everything she had dreamt he could be, and even more. In her later years, Zainab lived a life of peace and comfort, surrounded by her grandchildren and the love of her community. Musa ensured she wanted for nothing, buying her a beautiful home and visiting her often despite his busy schedule. One sunny afternoon, as Zainab sat in her garden watching her grandchildren play, Musa approached her with a framed photograph. It was a picture of them standing together at one of his award ceremonies. "Thank you, Mama," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "for everything." Zainab smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "No, Musa," she said softly. "Thank you for making all my sacrifices worth it." As the sun set, Casting a warm glow over the garden, Zainab reflected on her journey. What had begun as an unwanted pregnancy had turned into a story of triumph and legacy. She had not only changed her own life, but had also inspired an entire generation to believe in the power of resilience and love. And as laughter filled the air, Zainab knew that her story and her legacy would live on in the hearts of those she had touched. Moral lesson: 1. Every challenge can be an opportunity. Zainab's unwanted pregnancy was seen as a misfortune, but she turned it into a foundation of a beautiful story of triumph and purpose. Challenges can become stepping stones if faced with determination and hope. 2. Hard work and perseverance pay off. Zainab's journey proves that resilience and relentless hard work can overcome even the toughest obstacles. Success is not instant, but the reward is worth the effort. 3. Support and community matter. Zainab's rise was fueled by the support of her community. This reminds us of the importance of uplifting others and the collective strength of unity. 4. Education is the key to unlocking potentials. Musa's achievements were built on the foundation of education, emphasizing its transformative power in shaping lives and building futures. 5. Generosity creates legacy. By giving back to our community, Zainab ensured her impact will last for generations. Sharing your blessings not only help others but also bring deeper fulfillment. 6. Resilience transforms lives. Both Zainab and Musa show how persistence in the face of adversity can lead to profound growth, success, and inspiration for others. Thank you for watching this inspiring tale of resilience, love, and triumph. Zainab's story reminds us that no matter how difficult life may seem, hope and hard work can create miracles. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notification bell so you don't miss out on more amazing African folktales and life-changing stories. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories with important lessons. Stay tuned for more inspiring tales. Until next time, thank you for being a part of our journey.